My God, I hate drugs.
Destruction. And devastation.
Ang ating gobyerno ay nagbibigay sa kanila ng huling pagkakataon para kahit papaano ay itama yung mga maling ginawa nila.
This was MARAWl City in the middle of a war. 1 year later, its residents are picking up the pieces to rebuild their lives.
Pagkakaisa.
We get to know their stories, what's been done so far, and how much more is left to do.
Meron tayong long-term societal goal. Gusto natin resilient yung ang MARAWl City.
This is a special presentation of The Source, the Battle of MARAWl. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. Today marks the first year since MARAWl came under siege. A solemn tribute will be held to honor those who died defending the city from ISIS-inspired fighters, a battle that dragged on for 5 months. More than 50 people are still missing since the war broke out, and their families have yet to find closure. Let's go straight to the sources of the story. In MARAWl City, we have our correspondent, George Cahiles. And joining us here in the studio, Task Force Bangon MARAWl spokesperson, Assistant Secretary Christopher Purisima. CNN Philippines extensively covered the MARAWl siege from the start of the hostilities a year ago until the city was liberated in October. George Cahiles is our first correspondent to be deployed to MARAWl City when the war broke out. George, what's it like to be back in MARAWl?
You know, Pinky, it's like I always say, MARAWl is personal to me. That's why whenever I come here in MARAWl, I experience or I get that mixed of feelings, no? Anticipation, waiting for changes here in MARAWl, hoping that, I'll be seeing this city back on its feet and somehow anticipating to talk to people and get their stories, know what's happening on the ground. Kaya lang, most of the time, whenever I talk to people, alam mo yung pakiramdam na pinaglalaroan yung feelings mo. Because they're somehow you sense the anguish, but they're hopeful as well. So, ang hirap i-process sometimes because you still feel, you can still see how people are still struggling to go back to their normal lives.
You know, George, I can imagine the first time nakarating ka dyan sa MARAWl, the kind of, danger, number one, you had to face, and the surprise and the shock seeing MARAWl as it is. Siyempre, hindi ka naman nakapasok immediately, papunta pa lang, I can imagine the kind of anticipation you were feeling. But can you tell us more about, I want to go back a little bit to your experience when you first stepped foot there.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it's something that you really don't want to do, covering a war. Because war means destruction, that means death. So when we arrived here in the area, you see people desperately going to a safer place. So when you talk to them, talagang ramdam mo yung takot, ramdam mo yung pagmamadali nila, and they do not even know what's happening. What they know is that someone or a group attacked their place, and it's called ISIS. But apparently, it's called the Mountain Group, no? So, pagdating natin dito, it's very chaotic. Hindi natin alam kung anong mangyayari, and then may mga nakita pa tayong mga miyembro ng ISIS doon sa malapit na area lang dito sa provincial capital kung saan tayo nakatayo ngayon. So, it's really bothering. At the same time, you think about your safety, you think about the story that you will produce, you think about the people around you. So kumbaga, overwhelmed ka sa nangyayari sa paligid mo. And it's hard for a reporter, for a journalist to manage to produce something out of those things na iniisip mo rin yung sarili mo, yung safety mo at saka noong crew mo.
So yun, George, kasi importante nga dyan yung protection mo. That's number one. Pangalawa, yung the kind of story na ipapalabas mo, the package that you will put forward, no, na ipapalabas natin sa ating mga newscasts. Pangatlo, syempre, yung mga facts. At pang-apat siguro, darating din yung pagkatao mo na gusto mo din tumulong sa mga nakakasalamuha mo dyan. But, you know, George, also, naaalala ko kasi marami dyan, di ba, yung live reports mo ay nasa Kapitolyo, hindi ba? Tapos, there were a couple of times, George, na there would be bombings while you would do live reports here on CNN Philippines.
That's right. Kaya nga, especially the first time that the military did airstrikes. Kumbaga, a day after they said that they will not use airstrikes, biglang after the press conference, umuugong na dito sa may Capitol complex and we're hearing bombs from not so far away. And it's somehow you're worried about what's happening on the ground for the fact that there's still some trapped civilians inside. So you're worried about what's going to happen and how about the welfare and the safety of those people inside. Kami nandito kami sa Capitol Complex and we know for a fact that we are safe somehow, no? Pero yung mga taong na-trap sa loob, you'll never know. That's right. Kaya we tried our best to inform the public of what's happening here and to let them know how dangerous the situation here that time. And talagang ginagawa natin yung lahat ng magagawa natin because Marawi, the stories of Marawi are stories of the people, and the people should know what's happening.
Yeah. As the last question, George, what are you seeing now? Ano bang nakita mo from the last time you were there? How has it changed?
Actually, yung Marawi, meron siyang dalawang mukha. It has two faces right now. The safe area, kung saan yung economic activities, nagsisimula na siya, people already went back to their homes, trying to live normally. Tapos sa kabilang banda naman, you see the ground zero wherein talagang sira na yung area.
Yeah.
But you see those people residing in that ground zero na nandun pa rin sa mga evacuation centers. They are striving to live every day in a situation na talagang ayaw nating mapunta tayo doon. Ang daming factors, no? Nagkakasakit sila, malinis na tubig. Those are the issues that the government must tackle right now and they must address. Lalo na yung issue ng housing. Dahil sa ngayon, marami pa rin or hundreds or even thousands of families are still staying in evacuation centers. Wala pa sila dun sa mga temporary sites. And the government, marami pa silang kailangan gawin, marami pa silang kailangan itayong temporary shelters.
Yeah.
So sa statistics na nakuha natin, ang target 6,400 and yet more than 1,500 pa lang yun na itatayo. So marami pang pwedeng gawin and we're looking forward that, sooner or later matapos na ito at magkaroon ba ng sense of normalcy yung mga tao sa Marawi.
Yan ang mga tanong natin sa gobyerno because we have ASEC Purisima here in the studio. In the meantime, George Cahiles, maraming salamat sa iyo. George Cahiles joining us live from Marawi City. Thank you, George. We now have in the studio Task Force Bangon Marawi spokesperson Christopher Purisima. ASEC, good morning.
Good morning.
Yung mga tanong po ni George, umpisahan na natin. I think that, to give a clear picture, he gave us quite a clear picture on this, that there is the safe zone and there is ground zero. Before we went on air, sir, we were talking about this. Can you give us an overview coming from government?
Yes, in terms of the rehabilitation and recovery of Marawi City, we're talking about two things. First is the rehabilitation and recovery of the most affected area, which we previously called Ground Zero or the main battle area. And then the second is the rehabilitation and recovery of the areas outside the most affected area. For the most
Ito yung
affected...
tinatawag ni George na safe zone.
Yes,
Tama ba, sir?
yes,
Okay.
relatively the safer zones. No, for the most affected area, we're looking at around a rehabilitation cost of 22 billion pesos. This may still change depending on the final negotiations with the prospective developer and after the conduct of the Swiss challenge. And we target the groundbreaking to be around the third week of June. Okay, for the most affected area. For the area outside the MAA, we're looking at around 53 billion pesos in terms of rehabilitation and recovery costs. These involve short-term and medium-term projects, activities, and programs, or PAPs. These short-term PAPs will be those doable for this year, 2018, and the rest are for between 2019 and 2022. So we're looking at 53 billion. So the total rehabilitation and recovery cost estimate as of today is around 75 billion pesos.
22 billion on
The most affected
most
area.
MAA, as you
Yes,
call it,
the
most
MAA.
affected area, and 53 billion on the, well, safer zone and
Yes.
sir. Let's start with the most affected area, sir. How much of the 22 billion has been released or utilized?
None of it has
None.
been released yet because we're still going to finalize the negotiations and the contract for the most for the developer of the most affected area. We should be able to finish the negotiations within a week or 10 days at most. After that, we will publish the terms of the negotiations with this initial consortium, which is the Bagong Marawi Consortium. Then these negotiation points or these contract points will be subjected to Swiss challenge. So technically, hindi pa itong Bagong Marawi Consortium ang developer.
Sigurado, oo.
Hindi pa yan a final approval. So after the Swiss challenge, kung merong mas makapagbigay ng better price,
Yeah.
relatively, sabihin kaya namin to ng 21 or 20 or even lower in terms of billions of pesos, yun ang pwedeng piliin ng task force through its selection committee and through the chair. At pagkatapos nun, i-award na natin ang kontrata at mag-groundbreaking na tayo.
When is the awarding, you think, of the contract? Whether somebody gives a better challenge to the original bid, sir?
Perhaps mid-June.
Okay, that's why you said groundbreaking
yes,
would be third
groundbreaking
week.
will be third week.
When you say groundbreaking, Asek, anong ibig sabihin nun? What can we see?
Well,
Or is it just
first of all,
ceremonial?
It'll be relatively ceremonial in the sense that wala pa tayong makikitang construction because the first order of the day would be debris management, debris clearing. And this will take a few months.
At kasama to dito sa contractors? So
Kasama
sila
yan.
Okay.
It's one of the 16 minimum requirements that we identified that the contractor, the developer has to do. So, unang-una yan debris clearing. After ng debris
Ibig
clearing...
sabihin, tanggalin mo yung ano? Yung
Yes, marami
lahat
yan.
ng-
Lahat yan, pwede. And we're looking at recycling some of the debris for cement. So, para naman maging sustainable rin ang ating building back better ng Marawi. Pagkatapos nitong debris clearing na to, hopefully, pagkatapos ng horizontal development din, pag-aayos ng mga kalye, ng mga daan, relative clearing nito, papayagan na natin ang residents ng most affected area na makabalik at mag-rebuild ng kanilang mga pamamahay. So that is after the horizontal development. Subject, of course, to getting permits from the local government unit.
Parang mahaba-haba pa ho, no?
Yes, mahaba-haba. Although may mga nagsasabi na, for example, natatagalan dahil wala pa silang nakikita.
Yeah.
Ngunit masalimuot talaga to dahil ito ay conflict-affected area at hindi madali na i-rebuild ang isang conflict-affected area, lalo na in an urban setting na marami kang nasirang mga gusali, pamamahay, kailangan mo siyempre munang i-clear. And of course, nandyan rin yung mga issue ng unexploded ordnance.
Yeah.
85%, I think that's the figure we're looking at. And in the next few months, kukumpletuhin yan.
So may
ng ating
15%
EAP.
pang,
yes, meron pang
posibleng tinitingnan pa?
Yes. Hopefully in the next few months, tapos na.
Yeah.
Dahil kailangan na nga ng debris management.
We'll still be talking about the most affected area and the other part of Marawi, which is the safer zone. How does government call it, sir?
Well, we call it outside the most affected area, or the
Outside.
non-MAA.
or the non-MAA. We'll still be talking about that after the break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Coming up, we'll also be talking to Lanao del Sur Crisis Management Committee spokesperson Zia Alonto Adyong. And later,